Hi, Mr. C here. How are you today? Freaky Tales. Yesterday we read about the mightiest mouse that ever nibbled fat, and today we're going to read a story about winter and summer. Winter and summer. And this is a North American Indian story, and I love it. It's great. It's a nice idea about how winter makes way for summer. Once upon a time, the world was covered with snow. The fields and the forests, the lakes and the mountains were white with snow, and high on a hill stood Winter, watching over the wide white world with his eyes as sharp as icicles. But even Winter was cold. His bones were made of ice, his skin was made of snow. He was cold from head to toe. He was stiff and aching with cold, and he longed for just a little warmth. He dreamed of glowing fires and warm clothes. One day he decided to try and find the warmth he had dreamed about. He strode down the hill, the icy wind whistling between his teeth. He saw two children sliding on the ice. One of them was wearing a pair of fur mittens over her hands, and one was wearing a fur hood over his head. Winter stopped and stared at them both, and then he spoke. "I'm frozen through and through and through, bones of ice and skin of snow. I'm colder than you, than you, than you, bones of ice and skin of snow. Give me your mittens and your hood of fur now!" And he blew up a blizzard with his breath. The two children were so frightened that they took off their mittens and hood and gave them to Winter, and Winter snatched them out of their hands. He stretched the mittens over his great white fists, he stretched the hood over his great white head, and he set off striding through the forest. Then he saw a hunter following tracks across the snow. The hunter was wearing a thick fur coat over his shoulders. Winter stopped and stared at him, and then he spoke. "I'm frozen through and through and through, bones of ice and skin of snow. I'm colder than you, bones of ice and skin of snow. Give me your cloak of fur now!" And he blew up a blizzard with his breath. The hunter was so frightened that he took off his cloak and gave it to Winter, and Winter snatched it out of his hands, stretched it over his great white shoulders, and set off striding through the forest. Then he saw a hut at the edge of the forest, and standing in the doorway was an old woman. She was wearing a pair of thick fur boots on her feet. Winter stopped and stared at her, and then he spoke. "I'm frozen through and through, bones of ice and skin of snow. I'm colder than you, bones of ice and skin of snow. Give me your boots of fur now!" And he blew up a blizzard with his breath. But the old woman, whose name was Summer, was not the least tiny bit frightened of Winter. "Oh, of course you can have my boots," she said. "Of course you can. But I'm not taking them off here, out in the bitter cold. If you want my boots, then you must come inside and wait while I take them off in the warmth." "Very well," said Winter, and followed the old woman into the hut. Inside there was a beautiful blazing fire. "Sit down here and warm yourself in the firelight while I take my boots off." So Winter sat down and stretched his feet and hands towards the fire. This was the warmth he had been dreaming about. Old Summer left him sitting there for a while, and then she said, Do you feel any warmer now?" "No, I'm frozen through and through. I'm so cold I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my feet. My shoulders are as cold as a snowdrift." "Oh, well," said old Summer, "that won't do." And she threw some more wood onto the fire. Do you feel any warmer now?" No, I'm frozen through and through. I'm so cold. I can't feel my arms. I can't feel my legs. My neck is as cold as an iceberg. Oh dear, oh dear, said old Summer, and she threw some more wood onto the fire. Do you feel any warmer now? But all that was left of Winter was a lump of snow the size of a snowball. And on the floor in front of the fire was a puddle of slushy, sloshy water. And from the lump of snow came a thin voice, I'm still good. And then Winter was gone, and old Summer rubbed her hands together and laughed. She ran across and threw open the door of her hut. Outside the sun was shining, the fields were brown, the forests green, the lakes were blue, and the grey mountains just had a little snow shimmering on their tops. Winter was gone. The old woman called to the children and gave them back their hood and mittens. She called to the hunter and gave him back his fur cloak. And they thanked old Summer. But they wouldn't be needing them any more. Not for a while, anyway. The end. What a great story. What a lovely way to think of summer ending and winter starting. Great story. So, goodbye from Freaky Tales from Far and Wide, and goodbye from Mr. C. See you soon. Bye bye.